Have you ever noticed that your life is basically just repeating the story you've been telling yourself? I used to think that all of the things that were happening to me from external things, like things out of my control. I felt like I had literally no control in my life, and I would ruminate and I would think things like, why does this keep happening to me? And will I ever be able to do anything right? Why do I always get things wrong? What is wrong with me? Things like that. Really negative self-talk, but it was so common for me to think that way. It didn't ever occur to me to analyze it and question it. And I remember one time I was having a really bad day, and all of my kids were crying and fighting with each other. And I thought, it's funny that every time I'm feeling bad, that's the day the kids want to fight the most. And I think, are they just like, at first I thought, it's just so unfair. They choose the days that I'm feeling the worst to make the most noise or need me the most. And it turned out that I sat there and thought about it, and I was like, what if somehow there's like this energy like that I'm emanating that's causing my kids to act out like that, like they can feel the way I feel inside somehow. They don't know it, they don't know that that's where it's coming from, but maybe somehow they sense that energy, and that's what's actually causing them to be that way. Because I thought, when I wake up in the morning and I'm in a good mood and I feel great, my kids usually look like they feel great and they're acting good and stuff. So I thought there is some kind of correlation between the way I feel and the way they feel. So I was really fascinated by this line of thought, and I thought I would go online and start doing some research on it, because I wanted to know more, and if there was anything to this idea that energy shapes the world around us. I found a lot of good books on this subject, but one of the ones that really impressed me at the time was The Power of the Subconscious Mind by Joseph Murphy. And this book is really good, and it goes into a lot of ideas, such as talking about the difference between the conscious mind and the subconscious mind, and how your conscious mind makes the decisions, and then your subconscious mind is like an obedient servant that just kind of has to follow the orders from your conscious mind. And it talks about kind of reprogramming and retraining your subconscious mind so that it will obey. And then, just like when we drive autopilot in a car, we're driving without thinking about it. That's our subconscious mind taking over. It's doing something automatically that's been trained to do. And so all our whole life, we've been programmed with different ideas and different thoughts, and we replay those thoughts in our head all the time without even realizing it. That's our template that we live our life from. You can not only affect the way you think about things, but you can affect the things in your life. Other, things external to you can also be affected by those thoughts that you planted in your mind. So our subconscious mind is already programmed with a lot of things from our past, our childhood. So maybe we had repeated ideas presented to us, like, oh, you're not good for anything, or could be something good, you're beautiful, or you're, whatever. And those thoughts, if they're repeated long enough, they become embedded in our subconscious mind, and we act from those thoughts, and we live our life from those thoughts. And so in the book, it's basically teaching you how to reprogram your subconscious mind so that it's not replaying those old tapes that we don't want anymore, and so that we can live a life that we really want. If we're living a life of scarcity and sadness and grief, just constantly ruminating on things that are going wrong. Like, I used to ruminate all the time about how bad my life was and how I didn't know how to get it any better, and I didn't understand why everybody was just treating me so bad, and I didn't understand why I was such a failure, and I didn't understand why I couldn't get anything to happen that I wanted to happen. And I would repeat those thoughts to myself over and over again. It's just this long cycle of just repeating the same thing over and over again. And I didn't even realize what I was doing was continuing that programming going on to my subconscious mind. Because the subconscious mind does not care whether what you're saying is true or false. It doesn't care. It's going to believe whatever you tell it. So when you tell it, I'm worthless, your subconscious mind says, yes, yes, and it will live that way, as if you are worthless. And so when you do something as simple as an affirmation, where you say like, I am valuable, I am worth something, I matter, I love myself, I love, life, and you just repeat these kind of things. At first, you might feel like you're just lying, because I know I did at first. When I started, saying affirmations to myself, I'd be like, wow, that sounds like a lie. I don't really believe that. But when I did it enough times, over time, it started to click, and it started to change and absorb into my mind somehow, and it changed the way I thought about myself. And I noticed that when I changed the way I thought about myself, other people started treating me different. It was just amazing and bizarre, because I didn't think that was even possible, that you could really influence the world around you by just thinking different thoughts and really just feeling differently about yourself. It really makes a difference. And I remember one specific example in the book that said that when we say something to ourselves like, I can't afford that. You look at something, you say, I can't afford that. You're kind of programming yourself to say that you can't afford it, and somehow it seems to influence whether you can afford it or not. And when you sit there and you tell yourself, I can afford that. I have everything that I need, everything that I ever need. I can afford that. Something changes outside of you somehow. It's like a ripple effect. Just like when I was affecting my children with my mood, it's like my belief, I decided to try this because I thought it was a really cool experiment. He said, just try, go and look at things, go into a store somewhere and just like go around and look at stuff and tell yourself, I can afford this, I can afford that, I can afford all of it, And I decided to do that. And even though at the time I actually could not afford, I didn't have any money in my bank account, but I sat there and told myself, I can afford this, I can afford that. And I was actually sitting there, this was at Books A Million, and I was sitting at the table there, and this lady that I had drawn a picture for years ago, like probably 2 or 3 years prior, she came up to me and she's like, hey, Bethany, how are you? She's like, oh my goodness, you know what? Like, I totally forgot to pay you for that drawing that you did for me, and I want to go ahead and write you a check right now. She wrote me the check right then, and there was like $150. And I was so overwhelmed when she left, I couldn't believe it. And I went and bought myself the book that I said that I could afford. And I was like, I actually can afford it. And so that was like the start of me changing so many things in my life. It was like an avalanche of, like a snowball effect of things getting better and better and better from that time on. But there was a lot of learning in between, but things did start to get better. The more I shaped my mindset, the more things around me shifted. And that was just one example out of so many things. I just think it's amazing to think that we can literally shape our reality by the thoughts we think. I don't know exactly how it works, but I do know it works because I've shaped so many things in the last several years, and I want to eventually share all of those things, but it would take a really long time, so it would have to be just little video after little video. But I want to encourage anybody who is struggling that you can change your mindset and you can change your whole life for real. Lots of things can change when you reprogram the way that you think. You stop ruminating on what's not working for you, and you start envisioning the life that you could have and really believing that that is possible for you. Because if it's possible for other people, why can't it be possible for you?